Nothing beats living in a golf course community. Now, you may beg to differ with me and you're entitled to your opinion, but Northeast Georgia has some of the best golf communities that you can move to. And I'm going to tell you why today. How's it going? My name is Winston Gibbs with the Living in Northeast Georgia channel. And I'm here to tell you everything there is to know about the lifestyle, the entertainment, the recreation, and the real estate from the metro Atlanta suburbs to Athens, Georgia, all the way up to Lake Hartwell on the border and everything in between, including the best golf communities in Northeast Georgia. Make sure you hit the button to subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when all my videos come out so you can get the latest and up-to-date information on Northeast Georgia and what makes it amazing. Today, we're going to be looking at 3 of the golf course communities in Northeast Georgia and the pros and cons on why golf course living is really the best living. I'm blessed to live in a golf course community in Athens, Georgia, and I have loved it for the past 4 years. But most golf course communities have a similar feel, and there's a lot of pros and cons about them. So today, we're going to talk about the pros and cons of those things, specifically in regards to the communities at Château Élan, the Traditions Golf and Country Club, and Reunion Country Club. So let's jump into it. Got my golf course mug. Awesome trip out to Kiawah Island. So we got to start out with a combination of what makes golf course living amazing and what makes these specific areas amazing. You can go back and look at one of my previous videos on this area so you can get a good idea of what's around and what we're referencing when I'm talking about Château Élan, Traditions, and Reunion Country Club, all just situated slightly northwest of Athens and northeast of Atlanta. But as I say, those 2 awesome communities, that is going to be our first pro, is the location of these golf course communities has a huge, huge benefit. You have Athens right here, you have Atlanta over here, and you have Gainesville, Georgia up here. So the location of these communities provides a small town feel, but you have big city amenities that you can get to in very close proximity. The small town feel of these communities is really probably the highlight. Maybe you're wanting to get out the big city. Say you're in the metro Atlanta area, or you're moving from one of the other metros and you're like, I don't want that metro feel, but I still want access to it. Well, that is what these communities provide. They provide that super, super convenient location with a much slower pace of life. That's not to say that they do not have shopping centers you can go to or grocery stores. We're not out in rural nowhere where you can't get to anything you want. It's going to take you 30 minutes to get somewhere. No, they still have all the basic needs that you have. But if you want some of the bigger things like shopping or some of the big malls or major sporting events, then yeah, it may not be the right spot for you, but you do have access to those things. Speaking of that small town feel, major sporting events, we are in the middle of football season, and the community support behind the football teams, the basketball teams, the softball, the baseball, the soccer, all the sporting events, it really does have a small town feel. You'll see a lot of the local restaurants and shops and boutiques supporting with paint on the windows or flyers up. And also when you go to a lot of these schools, you're going to see the numerous businesses that sponsor and help support the children. So it really is a buy-in from the community, and that really makes it special. But the location, again, you're not in the big city, so you don't have to worry about those things. But you do have access to other awesome things like Lake Lanier. I've done a series on that. You can see what makes Lake Lanier awesome. You can have a short drive up to the North Georgia mountains, especially this time of year when football's setting in. There's plenty of places to get out, and the location creates a lot of convenience. Now, with that small town feel and desirability to get there, you have seen a ton of growth in these areas. So if that is really what you're looking for, the growth is coming. Over the last 5 to 10 years, you've seen 50, 75, 100% growth in the area and the people and the population. And with that growth comes more and more amenities. So they are growing. Atlanta is sprawling that way. Athens is sprawling that way. Gainesville is sprawling that way. And the location is unbelievable for those reasons. I'm going to give you a second pro about golf course communities. This is specifically with golf courses, and it applies to our clubs that we're talking about, is that you are realistically going to have a more protected property value because of the desirability to get into the golf course communities, because they are amazing and because they people want to move into these type of communities, you're going to see your property values more protected. Typically your HOAs and stuff, there's certain criteria and people got to keep their lawns up and houses pretty and all that stuff. And so there is a desirability to do that. Also, these are typically going to be higher price point houses. The protectability of being on the golf course, having access to all the amenities that comes with living in a golf course community, you will see that those values are going to remain more stable, protected. You're going to see the equity increase and appraisal values go up over time, and maybe at a slightly more rapid pace than other places. The first con of maybe living in one of these golf course communities is that higher price point. If you're not quite at the place to be buying, when we talked about Château Élan, Traditions, and Reunion, the average price point on all of them was in the mid sixes, the mid sevens, and over $1 million. And that may not be feasible for a lot of people. If you're a young family, that may not be in the budget right now, but maybe it's a goal you can set to get there. The higher price points are definitely going to keep some people out of those communities. And it's not in the sense of an elitist standpoint, but with these bigger houses, the HOAs that are involved in them and all the amenities that come with them, like the swim, tennis, those type of things, it does create a certain lifestyle that is a higher price point, and it may just not be affordable for you right now in this stage of life. Or maybe you're getting older and you don't want such a big house and you don't need that much space. And so maybe that higher price point, that big house isn't what you need right now. It's time to downsize. Going back to that protected property value, that is a pro when you get ready to sell, that desirability. So pro one is protected price points because of the desirability to get into golf course communities, but that con comes with it's a higher price point. And with that higher price point, when you go to sell, you may not have as large of a demographic of people who are able to buy those houses. So that's the pro and the con, kind of like a catch-22, but overall, I would definitely say it is more beneficial to be in one of these golf course communities if that's your thing and what you're looking for. The third pro is these golf course communities are extremely family friendly. I know in my community that I live in at Jennings Mill, but also when I was driving around last week around Traditions, Château Élan, and Reunion, you could see families with kids walking around. You can see people driving their golf carts. You can see people walking the dog, and it's people of all ages. You have young married couples, you have families with kids of all ages, and you do see elderly folks throughout these communities. So it's a very family-friendly, tight-knit community. You see people talking and enjoying. A lot of times in these communities, there are going to be get-togethers around the holidays. Another thing, Château Élan is a gated community. So there's that family-friendly security and safety presence about being in those communities. Now, Traditions and Reunion are not gated, but a lot of golf course communities are. Some of the other courses throughout the Atlanta area may have gated access where you have to have codes and security guards and all those things. Or even in the Athens area, some of the courses here do have the security guards. The other things that make it family friendly, because that is one of our biggest pros of being in a golf course community, is every single one of the communities, Traditions, Château Élan, and Brazelton, have pools, tennis courts, playgrounds, and tons of green spaces, plus sidewalks and everything else to walk around. A lot of these communities also will have signs that say slow or speed bumps to make sure people aren't driving too fast. The pools, the tennis courts, the playgrounds, when I drive around there, I see kids out there. I see families. I see tennis leagues. I see pickleball leagues. You have swim meets. There's all kinds of things to do in these communities that can keep your kids close, or you can get your exercise that you need with. A lot of them also have gyms. I know Château Élan has a gym. Traditions has the gym. The sport memberships, I would say, that family-friendly environment of the golf course community is a huge pro. And that family friendliness also relates to these communities. Jefferson, Brazelton, Pushton, they all have that super tight-knit community. And these parades and festivals don't only stand within the golf course community, but it also goes into the towns with different festivals, around Thanksgiving, Christmas. These communities are very tight-knit and very family-friendly. So if that's what you're looking for, these areas would be an amazing place to start. With the family friendliness and the security provided, you have the second con, which would be the HOA. Now, a lot of people do not like HOAs. You may not be a fan of an HOA, and I'll be honest, my HOA drives me nuts. But while there are benefits to the HOA, there are some cons. Obviously, that is an added cost that would go into your monthly budget. You know, if you can afford X amount of house, you have to be able to tap in and look at what the HOA cost is, because there's a chance that over time it is going to slightly increase, just like taxes and insurance. But making sure that you can afford that, and then as part of what you get. The HOA also can kind of be a little bit of a nuisance. Sometimes you have the nosy neighbor that wants to report you to the community because your grass is a little bit too long. Maybe you've left the trash can out a little too long. Maybe your house hasn't been painted or updated, or you want to paint it a certain color, but it doesn't fit into the codes within the community, or you want to make some changes. Those are some of the cons that are typically associated with HOAs, because you may not have quite the freedom that you may have if you weren't in a community that didn't have an HOA. Hate them, love them. They're there for a reason. They, again, help protect those property values and create a family-friendly environment. But for a lot of people, the HOA will be a con, and that is our second con on the list. Now, I referenced this earlier when I talked about communities and family friendliness. This kind of ties into it. But our fourth pro for these specific areas, Château Élan, Tradition, and Reunion, are the school systems. These school systems are really, really good school systems, highly rated. Château Élan feeds Mill Creek, which is one of the top 25 public schools in the metro Atlanta area. Traditions is in the Jefferson School District, where you have West Jackson High School, which is a brand new high school, which is awesome. Or you can pay for your kids to go into the Jefferson City School, which is one of the top 5 public schools in the state. And then Reunion Country Club in Hall County feeds into the Flowery Branch School, which is one of the top rated school districts in Hall County. So all of these golf course communities have really good school districts. Again, that is going to help with the property values, because good school districts typically mean higher property values. These schools have very good athletics. They have very good academics. They have lots of different clubs that your kids can be involved in. And like I said, the community support around these school districts are very, very good. And depending on which neighborhood you're going to go into, again, maybe you don't know which of these golf course communities you want to move to, but you can do some research yourself on what different school districts offer. Our third con, I'm going to kind of tie back into that location, that small town feel. Now, with this, you may not have quite as many opportunities economically. While they are growing, the job market is not as vast and robust as maybe some of these areas like Gainesville or Athens or Atlanta. Even when you get into the metro part, such as the Alpharettas, Roswells, Lawrenceville, they are smaller communities, so job opportunities are a little bit more limited, especially higher paying jobs, such as would be required to maybe afford a house in one of these golf communities. It is what it is. You may not have quite as many restaurants as some of the other places. You don't have the shopping opportunities. You don't have the public transportation that maybe some of these larger communities will have. But while that is a con, maybe a little bit of limited economic opportunity, all three of these areas are growing rapidly. Remember, they're only about 20 minutes apart without traffic, 10, 15 minutes apart sometimes, but it is growing substantially. So the opportunities are coming. With those opportunities also means price points are going to continue to go up. I wouldn't let that deter you from being in one of these places, because they are great. And there's some great mom and pop shops and places to eat. It's not like you don't have hospitals close. The North Georgia Medical Center is very close to all these facilities. You can get into Athens or Atlanta very quickly if you have a larger health need. But for the most part, North Georgia Medical Center will provide all of your medical needs, and the amenities or lack thereof. You have all the basic amenities. You're going to have gyms and grocery stores and restaurants and some of the best food you can, because it's made with love in a small town, especially in some of these golf course communities. Most of these places have restaurants in their clubs, and that is another great place where the family can gather. You don't feel like getting out. You can take the golf cart, stroll up, have a reservation, and you don't have to fight the public for that. So they are, although like I said, amenities are a little bit lacking, you still have everything in your basic needs, and you can get out to some of these other big cities to enjoy sporting events or big shopping, such as the Dogs or the Braves or the Falcons, whoever your team is. For our fifth and final pro is the golf. I mean, I'm a golfer. Look behind me. You got awesome golf stuff here. Golf balls tremble at my name. Titleist golf balls back there. I'm a golfer. If you notice, I'm in golf attire all the time. Usually when I go out in public, people ask me if I've played golf that day because I'm wearing golf shorts and a polo and a golf hat. That's just my style, but I love golf. For a lot of people that move into these communities, they also enjoy the sport. The sport of golf provides so many opportunities to learn life skills. And so again, going back to that family friendliness, the golf course has opportunities for your kid to get out there. Stay out of trouble by being at the golf course. They have people that can give lessons. There's other kids they can play with and grow up with. You can create your own sense of community on the golf course and get out and enjoy it. The views of the golf course, man, nothing really gets me than waking up, seeing that dew first thing on the ground on perfectly manicured grass. Those are all some of the huge benefits of the golf. And with a lot of these places, you can have memberships where you go and you have access, and they're private opportunities. So it's not like the public is flooding in there. Château Élan has private and public options. Traditions is private, and Reunion is a public course with membership options. So you would get priority in those situations. But the golf is a great sport. You can get your exercise. You can build business opportunities throughout there. And you learn a lot of life lessons. Whether an adult, I'm still learning lessons through the game of golf. But the views, the perfect manicured spaces, the environment that golf creates is definitely the fifth pro of living in a golf course community. And it is a nice humble brag sometimes to be like, yeah, I'm a member out here. I live out here. Again, not an elitist standpoint, but this is something I'm passionate about. And this is where I live because I love it so much. One minor con, I guess I'll say, and depending on where you're at, and this could affect property values, by the way, is that you possibly have risk of damage. Not every house in a golf course community is on the golf course per se. You have different areas where they're not, but if you are on the course, you might want to look out for a stray golf ball. Make sure you have proper insurance to cover those things where it hits your house. Hopefully it doesn't break a window. There may be a little bit of noise if people are outside or running their golf cart. I wouldn't really worry about the privacy because, again, they are very tight-knit, safe communities, but maybe a lack of privacy. That is one of the probably cons, a very minuscule one, I would say, of living in a golf course community, but it is the reality of it. So anyways, those are the pros and cons of living at the golf course. You got your location, you got your protected property values. It's very, very family friendly. They have great schools and the ability to play golf and get out to the golf course, whether or not you walk or you ride. And then the cons are you have your HOAs, you do have higher price points, maybe lack of amenities, but I would not let any of those things deter you from the awesome things that make these communities great and why people want to move there. With that said, my name is Winston Gibbs with the Living in Northeast Georgia channel. I'm here to tell you everything there is to know about the lifestyle, the recreation, the entertainment, and the real estate from the metro Atlanta area to Athens, all the way up to Lake Hartwell and everything in between, including great golf courses like Château Élan, Traditions, and Reunion. If you're interested looking at one of these golf communities, or you just want to go play around, I can make some phone calls. We can set it up. You can come to my course. We can go to one of those courses, and let's have a fun time and see if one of these places is right for you. If you're not looking to be in one of these golf course communities, I would not be doing my job and I wouldn't be informing you properly if I didn't tell you there are tons of great opportunities around all three of these communities. There are lots of other great neighborhoods that you can move to, embed yourself in that culture, and then maybe buy something now or rent something now. And as you continue to save, let appreciation do what it does. Sell that, maybe then at some point it can be a goal to get in one of these fabulous golf course communities. But with that said, make sure you like or leave a comment. Tell me what your best score is. Tell me what you love about being the golf courses. Tell me the best courses you've played. Any of those things, I'd like to engage with you. Again, my name is Winston Gibbs with the Living in Northeast Georgia channel. Here to tell you about the lifestyle, the recreation, the real estate, and the entertainment from metro Atlanta area to Athens, up to Lake Hartwell, and everything in between, including these awesome golf course communities. Make sure you hit the button to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications as I continue to release videos on what makes Northeast Georgia one of the best places in the entire country to live. See you in the next one.